All right, we'll move on to our next panel discussion. Our next panel will focus on transformative trends, innovation, and the role of technology in fund administration. This topic is very interesting, and I'm sure all of you are excited as well. Continued innovation through new technologies, such as increasing use of AI to streamline processes and blockchain to improve record keeping. These technologies are becoming a part of the industry DNA, making them critical capabilities for service providers. So please welcome our panelist, Ravi Seshadri, COO Fund Admin Platforms at KFin Technologies. Mr. S. Anand Kailash, MD, IT Global Fund Solutions at CSC Global. Mr. M.A. Kishen Kumar, Group Chief Technology Officer at ASK Wealth and Investment Advisors. And Mr. Rajesh Krishnamoorthy, Senior Venture Partner at Colossa Ventures. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Let me start off on a very light note, just after lunch. A few years ago, somewhere in MEEPS, I don't know which company that is, but for the lack of a company name, let's call it Sintel, because also in fund accounting. So they had a huge launch spread at the front, which had a huge hoarding, which says, "Do not trespass. If you do, you will be recruited." So do we have technologists other than people over here in the group? So we have none. Each one of them have a quota to recruit at least one person today. And if there is a technologist over here, there'll be techno-functional as well. So the cards are there in the front, you can take them. Okay. See, about 5 years ago, if you go and put in Naukri, jobs that are there in technology, you will see .NET, Java, Oracle, and so on. Now, within 5 years, that has now changed. Now, if you go and put the same thing, it comes like AI, ML, Python. Now, even my grandmother knows Python, the word Python. Okay, not just not the snake, but the technology. So that's how fast things have changed. Blockchain is maybe in a year from now, everybody will be talking about blockchain. And in the previous sessions, Samir and the other gentleman, they were saying that the fund administration, that's a very, very integral part of the fund management itself. It's not a separate responsibility. It's not, even though it is outsourced, it is still very, very integral to the fund manager. So we have here people who are in the asset servicing business, the fund houses, and also somebody who has been multiple verticals. Okay, so we will share what each one of them has and how they have embraced technology in their firms, and let's see if there is something to learn. So we have, as a fund administrator, now you have various responsibilities, various touch points that you have to integrate. You have the operation teams from fund accounting, portfolio accounting, valuation, pricing, corporate actions, audit, and so on. Each fund administrator has kind of integrated them differently by adopting the technology that is there, which is available for them, either in terms of products or in-house solutions. Now, the degree of adoption of such technology differs from company to company and the jurisdictions that they service. We have challenges in terms of volumes, in terms of complexities, the new asset classes, portfolio structures, and so on. So this poses a big challenge for the technologies. You require everything immediately. Is it possible? And if so, how do we make it happen? So we'll see what are the trends available in technology today. So the short 24 minutes discussion. I've been told only half an hour is there. I've spoken for 6 minutes. Okay, over to you, Anand.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you for inviting me here. As you can see, the only gene in a sea of formal trousers, I represent technology here. So just to set context, right, I'm part of an organization that offers services and technology solutions to global hedge funds. My primary clientele is North American hedge funds. And I do see a specific trend emerging, right? And I've been in this industry, specifically in this role, for the past 18 years. When we started, the industry was largely technology ignorant. When I say technology ignorant, right, they didn't really care how we delivered services. But now, at least the multi-billion shops that we work with, there is an incumbent technology setup. There is a CTO, there is a COO who asks the relevant questions, right? They come to us with specific asks on integration, integration being the key word here, right? So they already have established analytics, they have established systems, they have established workflows, they have connectivity to the market, to reference data providers. What they come to administrators like us for is to ensure that we become a part of their technology ecosystem. So it's not just sufficient if we drop a file to them with that necessary data. We should be able to pipe information in real time to be able to integrate with their existing systems. And last but not the least, our technologies should be adaptable enough to be able to manage their requirements. And this is a very boutique industry, right? Everybody has their own set of requirements. No two clients are alike. So to be able to work with their requirements and deliver it in the shape and form they want is the current challenge. And one additional point I want to make, right? It was very pertinent listening to Mr. Nadella in the morning, where he had a slide about technology capabilities, right? The buzzwords, all the buzzwords were there, right? I mean, cloud ready and security compliant and OWASP and all these key things, right? Which was earlier a USP of a technology organization or a technology product are no longer USPs. They are bare necessities for you to get into the door, right? You now have people asking much more. I mean, this is the only forum where I can ask what is AI and I'll get other answers other than artificial intelligence, right? So this current world has a lot more understanding of technology, and their asks are specific with respect to integration, with respect to the kind of tools being used, and the correct kind of connectors that are available to industry service providers. That's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, thanks, Anand. So we will probably summarize at the end, and if you have any queries from the audience or from the panelists, we will. Over to you, Kishen.
Hi, good afternoon. I do agree with most of the points from a technology point of view, because I think technology was there, will be there, and will always drive as an enabler and for the business. But the point is today it's not independent. And so let's look at it this way. If you realize most countries had something known as a Chief of Defense Staff, a central agency which coordinated between the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And we did that just about 4 years back. So that's exactly what the entire business is all about. So for us as a group CTO, when I look at business, it's just not the technology part that I need to look at business from point of view. The point is I need to look at the business. That means I need to understand what business you're doing and why are you doing it this way. Then you have the whole question of data. Where are you getting it from? How are you managing it? And the granularity of the data. I'm sure that's been the biggest challenge, getting data in its most granular form. The third point is the 2 slides, the 2 gentlemen who were here before, who explained the legal and the regulatory aspect. So regulations. Today, if you look at regulations, it's just not something that you can sign off on a piece of paper. That needs to be managed completely under technology. And all these regulations today are bound by technology. So today, if you look at a SEBI guideline or an RBI guideline, whether it is from a compliance perspective or from a taxation perspective, or when you looked at Gift City, all these are driven through technology. So if you take these 3 points itself, you will realize that how the compliance, the business, the taxation, the data, all these aspects, how technology drives it. So it's very important that one understands the business and the technology and brings them together. It's the amalgamation of both. It cannot be independent. So we can use all kinds of technologies and all kinds of business logic and do that. But if you don't marry them together, it's never going to work. And of course, it should not end in a divorce, or it could not end in a stalemate. There are many cases I can tell you of when the technology and business don't match. But the most important thing being that is of primary importance today, that if you are in technology, you need to understand the business, you need to know the entire thing. The entire 9 yards is to be known from an overall business perspective, so that the right technology can be put in place and the right governance models can be built. Today, if you look at it, there is a ISO certification, there is a Data Privacy Act, which is about to come in any time. Then you have new taxation laws. You just heard about IFSC, and probably by the time we get out of the room, a new SEBI regulation on Friday would come in. So how do you bind all these things together? And that's the biggest challenge that today we face. On top of that, you have various business issues, whether you're looking at the limits, whether you're looking at pricing, whether you're looking at how you want to do your business in terms of getting the data for doing your analytics, in terms of pricing your products, creating new products. All these things have a good blend of understanding of both the algorithms today which you're using. So one of the key things I mentioned was also from an AI perspective. When you look at AI today, AI, is it driving business models? To some extent, yes. But actually, if you look at the core business, and if it has been not today, I think it's been done from the 90s onwards, where you use various algorithms actually to drive business. And if you talk about algorithms, machine learning tools, exactly as Anand said, Python is very important. So that's something which actually drives this whole thing. So in my view, the whole creating of a CDS is a very important aspect in business. And I think that's the part which, as a technologist or as an organization moves forward into the next generation or takes the next leap forward, it's going to be completely data driven. It's no longer going to be on somebody's whim, somebody's fancies. Even today, when you say, oh, it's my guess, it's my gut feel, that's the data which has come off based on various channels. But I don't think so. I think the most optimum way to do it is actually to see what exactly the data tells you, based on the trends, based on the parts, based on the various algorithms that are available for you to drive. So all these things are something which is very important, which will actually take care of the next generation of fund accounting, fund management, whatever you call it. But technology is going to be the base for doing it, but understanding of business is the most important thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't know which algorithm to use where, you wouldn't know which pricing to use where, and how do you get across all these things. So those are some important challenges that I see, and the ones which needs to be addressed over the next few years. Thank you.
Thanks, Kishen.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I will start by the conversation. I start with the conversation I had with my son as I was driving into BKC. I told him, Karthik, I'm coming here for such a conference. Would you like to listen into some of the conversations happening here? So he said, I don't have to waste time coming all the way from Goregaon West to BKC, listening into everybody. In fact, you are going there. You will be making your notes. I know that. And then whatever you're going to speak, I can listen from you when you're back home. So when I have an in-house resource, why should I spend my time and effort traveling all the way here? So that was his answer to me. Well, if that sounded like a smart answer, sometimes when it comes to technology, or most often when it comes to technology, I feel that the companies somehow don't appreciate what's in-house. There's always a craving to look for the next big consultant, to look for the next new language, to adopt something that is the in thing in tech, without really understanding on what rails have you been running all this while and how do you spruce it up. And sharing experiences, because like Ravi mentioned, I've been, just to give you a background, I was, and we know this here, who was there in the earlier panel, we've been together while putting up Fidelity Fund Management in India as a setup team as well. And subsequently, I was part of a technology initiative in India with the public mutual fund space. And having seen technology as a consumer, as a fund manager, and as even an intermediary, what I have realized over the years is that when we try to create solutions for the industry, a lot of people are very eager to get the whole big thing out in the open. The big thing comes out in the open, but then the devil being in the detail, there's nobody else to sweat out on the smaller things. So let's look at, transformation. I would say transformation should happen with what we already have. If I invoke a learning from one of the sessions I attended, Trinity talks about preservation, destruction, and creation, right? So we are always very keen to talk about creation. Oh, okay, let's get an AI model in. Okay, very, very keen to have creation. But what about destruction and preservation? Preserving something that you're doing well and sprucing it up. So let's look at the CKYC today. Every new customer has to go through the same drill, irrespective of whether he gave the documents 1 month ago to somebody. Because you are expected as an intermediary to get the latest and make sure that you've updated the CKYC with the latest. No declaration which says that what I submitted 6 months ago is the same today, so I don't have to give the same memorandum of association or articles. There's nothing like that. We haven't sweat the small stuff. And then we talk about transformation and we talk about customer convenience. Actually, we are inconveniencing the customer by giving him the hope that things have become smoother, but at the same time giving him an experience that it's not changed. So I think one thing that at least we can, because when I look at public mutual funds versus where we are as an VC or an AIF space in terms of tech and process and improvements, one of the things that we can start by, make sure that we start doing is that as much as we work on the bigger stuff, we also sweat the small stuff. And for which every single person who is handling operations, compliance, and in-house, technology should be actually volunteering in various forums to sweat the small stuff. It will make a huge change in the industry. The other experience I can share is when it comes to policy, we just had a previous slide which says, now we are stepping into gray, and there will be a lot of grays in the policy. But then there are different policies which may not necessarily look like they overlap, but they have a relevance. I'll just come in the context of startups because we talk to a lot of startups. Startups are where we invest as an asset manager, as a venture capital fund manager, right? So every startup has today an ESOP plan. Everybody. And when it comes to ESOPs, at least there is a regulation which says you should value your company once a year. So there is a valuation exercise that is happening in every organization which runs an ESOP. In fact, I realized when I spoke to a few people that if you enable transactions within employees or amongst ESOP holders, it will be good to have an ESOP valuation every 6 months, because then the preceding 6 months valuation will become a benchmark for the next issuance. So suppose you have a mid-year review, you are giving out ESOPs to somebody, you don't have to rely on a 12-month or 9-month-old valuation. You better relate to the last 6 months, within 6 months valuation. So now you have on one side valuation being done by companies. you have independent valuations being done for the investee, investee firms are being valued because asset managers or VCs value these companies. And then you have a whole lot of others who are also investing in these companies where there is a valuation exercise going on. But for some reason, we believe that it is so sacrosanct, we will not talk about it to the other. So there is, what is so material to our industry still remains in silos. Somewhere we don't want to come out with it or have a mechanism where, with consent of different parties, we can exchange this information and arrive at maybe a better valuation decision. Not that you would know valuation better than me. Every fund manager would harp on that matter. But still, why is it that in public markets we have a consensus-driven pricing mechanism? We are not trying to drive consensus, but at least can we have something where somebody doesn't say this is 0 and somebody says it's 1 billion? I mean, that would be absurd. So I think technology that way has a substantial role to play where with, for example, the consent mechanisms we have in India today, particularly using the account aggregator framework, it is possible for our industry to develop such mechanisms where ESG experts can take information. Your valuation experts and your fund managers can take valuation information. The investee companies can use information from this with consent to approach their next round. On what basis was I valued and how was it done? It's a lot of learning for me too, for a peer set to give me that number and tell me, okay, if you are a tech company, this is your peer set valuation that happened over the last 6 months. We are not giving these things. So this aggregation of data, which is remaining in silos, even with consent, we are nowhere thinking of sharing and making it easier for startups and for this ecosystem to grow. So I think these are some of the quick ones that I could pick up from experience, and I hope we'll continue our journey as we talk.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rajesh. Question to Kishen. So you are talking about how you have various processes and data required in very granular form, the changes in compliance and the regulatory framework, and also availability of tools for data analytics, AI and so on. Have you implemented any of those? And from your experience, can you share how this can address the challenges that we have?
Well, that's a long question, but let's break it up into simple parts. When you said transformation, yes. Transformation is across the organization. That means you're breaking up the silos. So that means right from the fund manager to the investment research to the operations to the IT, the entire barriers which are there across, or let me make a nice word, barriers which are there are easily broken. And unless you break those barriers, it's not going to work. So that's what transformation is all about. So you understand the business process. So that's something which we've already taken care into this, and think that's one of the first areas. Secondly, in the areas of digital, today, I mean, we've been talking about digital transformation for the last 20 years. And the last 5-6 years have seen phenomenal digital transformation. And basically, I think it's not more from the industry, it's more from the governmental parts. Because your ability to access KYC information, your ability to download data, your ability to use Aadhaar as the primary premise, your ability to not ask a customer to give me a copy of this or give me a copy, directly download, provided you have his consent. All these are important transformations which actually help the business grow, and that also the industry grow. The other way is, one of the things that you rightly said about people doing the KYC over and above, that now it becomes much more easier. The ability to access. You might not carry a Xerox copy of your driving license or your Aadhaar card or your PAN card every time. It's downloadable now. So those things have really made it easier. Secondly, even reporting. Let's talk about compliance as well. I think way back in 2009 or 10 is when we were in the RBI committee. We implemented the XBRL reporting. So if you look at the XBRL reporting, they directly take the data and they come back to you with very specific areas. They say, okay, show me this data, this data, this data, which is more important. So that's something which from a compliance perspective is very important, and that's also very important from a business perspective. Previously, auditors used to sit in our office for months together and rummage over the data that we have to provide from our database. Today, they come with very specific questions and you answer very specific responses. So that's a second important thing. The third thing which I think is very important is the three-way matching or the reconciliation systems which are there, because you need to match the customer, the custody, as well as the accounts and the holdings and whatnot. Yeah. So those are some of the important areas where I think technology plays a very vital role. And these are some of the things, some of the challenges that we have been able to overcome in a big way. The last and the most important thing when I said this about data, the data consists of mainly layers. Now the first layer is basically the customer part of data that you're talking of, the transaction part of data that you're talking of. Then you have the custody, you have various sources of data, you have the market research, market information, and your mark to market and everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. All those are very important areas of how you are able to pool these data together, and at the same time, the entire ecosystem together. It is just not you. It's basically the entire ecosystem of all your custodians, all your brokers, all your this thing whom you are trying to bring under one umbrella. And that's something which I think is a fantastic thing which is happening today, thanks to the technology, whether you're using APIs, whether you're using, I think. And the most important thing that people are learning in the industry is, yes, everybody in the organization wants data in the most grand, but the industry itself is on a point of understanding that they too need to provide data to the customer in a granular way. The problem is till now it was just a file, it was some data here, some customer transactions and things like that, but not the way the data is actually read by the organization. And the same thing happens to this thing. The last but not the most, this thing is also the risk management. Today we are talking of risk management, not in a thing. We are talking of enterprise risk management. When you talk of enterprise risk management, you have to know at a very granular level what is your holding, what is your cash position, what is your exposure, what are your hard limits, soft limits. All those things form a very important part of your overall business. And these are some of the areas I think which we have been able to tackle. We have been able to get that as a part of our regular reporting structure. And the most recent ones that we're working was on the part of investment research and this thing where data across industries using tools and tool sets and algorithms, we're actually putting those things up so that when you make a decision on a particular, if it's a asset management part of business, so if you're looking at a fund kind of thing, whether it's an AIF or a PMS or a hedge fund, whatever be it, the data quality is so clear and absolutely perfect that you are able to make decisions. Of course, that takes about 80-90% of your time. And the 5 or less percent depends upon the trader and the hunch that he works on, the gut feel as I call it. At least the 90% of that takes care of the data. That's a very important thing from an asset management point of view. From a wealth management point of view, we look at it more from a more analytical based tools where you can actually predict or use things from that perspective as to what are the next best offerings. From an operational perspective, that is where we look at a lot of machine learning and I can't say full AI because AI has 5 layers and we are now at the machine learning layer. You have NER, NLP and finally artificial intelligence which actually gets into neural intelligence and drives the whole AI basket. So unless those 5 layers are completed, we can't call it as a full-fledged AI. But at least we should say we are more into the 3rd layer and between the 3rd and the 4th layer. So that's an important area where we think. And I think those are the areas that seem to address most of our concerns and we have been working in that direction to do. But if you ask me, we are still about 60-70%. I mean, there's no way you can ever reach that 80-90-100% because it's a continuous evolving thing. And once you start learning, you build upon that. Yes, has it brought efficiencies? It has brought efficiencies. Has it changed some of the game structure within business? Yes, it has the potential. It's being worked upon. and it's still a long way to go. So these are some of the things that we have looked at, we are working on, and to a large extent we have implemented many things. So especially the ERM part from an overall organizational perspective is something, the most important area that the concentration is on. Thank you.
Thanks, Kishen. Last 30 seconds. Rapid fire question for you. What technology did you adopt in your organization to overcome the data integration requirements across multiple sources where they require it?
So, again, the most abused term is API integration, right? RESTful APIs and everything. I mean, that is the de facto standard in terms of integrating applications. But fundamentally, I would say, I mean, in the given 30 seconds, right? Ensuring that the technology architecture is sound, that it is scalable, it allows access to the right people at the right point in time to the right data, that is basically the least privilege principle. And it allows us the ability to change in a nimble manner. That's the foundation of any technology that we build in this industry, in my opinion.
Thank you, thanks. In the interest of time, about 50, 60 years of experience in 25 minutes we had to finish. But there is no one size fits all. And everybody have to adopt technology the way it is presented to you. And you can buy the best of technology, but if you have to keep the costs under control, you'll have to invent something on your own using the technologies that are available. Solution is best created in-house, like what Rajesh's son told him. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists for those forward-thinking insights. I would like to call Mr. A.K. Sridhar to felicitate the guests. Huge round of applause for our panelists, please. I would request Mr. Sridhar to stay back, please. We are going to announce our first runner-up for the lucky draw. And the winner wins an Apple Watch.
Nayan Shah.
Congratulations, Nayan. Can we have you on stage, please?
Mavira Investments.
Nayan wins an Apple Watch. Stay tuned for the the winner. That person will win an Apple iPad. Thank you, Mr. Sridhar, and congratulations, Nayan.